Welcome to Public Speaking with Peter George. Do you want to be calm, confident, and credible every time you speak in public? Then stay tuned as Peter and his guests discuss public speaking tips, techniques, and tactics that help you increase your impact, influence, and income. Here's your host, the author of The Captivating Public Speaker, Peter George.
Understanding and honoring the powerful psychology of the speaker-audience relationship helps you improve your communication skills and professional and personal interactions. But how do you do this? Well, in this episode, Steve Multer gives you the keys to adding value, passion, and connection in any outbound marketing message. Remember, a number without a story that gives you the number's meaning is easily ignored and quickly forgotten. Yet when you learn to tell a better story, you instantly serve your listeners and yourself more successfully, strategically, and organically. Steve is a veteran corporate storyteller, speaker coach, team trainer, and marketing messaging strategist for some of the world's leading brands, including Cisco, HP, Siemens, Bayer, Xerox, and Panasonic. He has guided more than 2,500 professionals to deliver value, passion, and connection in on-stage and on-camera presentations. His new book, Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told, was released in January. Here's my conversation with Steve Multer. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show.
Oh, Peter, thank you so much. Great to be here sharing your platform with you. Thank you to all of your guests listening in as well. Hopefully we'll create some really good stuff, some good value for everybody today.
I'm looking forward to it. We're going to talk about corporate storytelling. That's something people have a lot of interest. How can we apply it to both our personal and professional lives and make it valuable?
Oh, that is such a fantastic place to start, because I think frequently when people hear the word corporate sets them off in the wrong direction. It immediately puts them into a mindset that says, okay, this is about my business, whatever my job, my employment is, my brand that I'm representing. That's the nature of corporate storytelling. And when I'm in training and I'm in coaching, I always let people know, once you start to understand the concepts of winning communication, and you get the strategies of how to create presence, utilizing your voice in a unique and impactful way, all of those skills are equally applied in our personal lives as they are to our corporate lives. We like to keep them separated, and I think we learn to keep them separated from a young age. But I always say, no, good communication, good storytelling is good storytelling. And you can apply it to an audience of one, whether it's your spouse or your partner or your kid or your friend sitting across the table or your boss or your colleague, or you're standing on stage talking to 10,000 people. The rules apply. Create value for others through telling a great story. And all of a sudden, whether it's personal or corporate, does not matter. There is no delineation between those two.
I've had people say, well, I don't have the opportunity in my personal life to tell stories. Do you have a significant other? Yes. When you come home or they come home, you're telling me the question, how was your day? Doesn't come up. Or a friend over a beer, how did your week go? Happens all the time.
You are so right. I think, again, let's talk about preconceived notions, right? The word story. What does story mean? Story means I have to have a full beginning, middle, and end to everything that I say. It has to have a massive point behind it. It has to be funny. It has to be highly entertaining, has to be engaging. No, what a story is you tapping into what matters most to you, your own personal passion, and what drives you, your moral code, your center, what you find intriguing, what you are curious about, and being willing to share that with another human being. That is your story. So whether that, again, is on a personal front, like you said, I walk in the door, honey, how was your day? Well, let me tell you what went on in my day, because my day was important to me. I just finished it. Or if you're out there talking about your product, your solution, your service on a business side, and you're sharing what excites you about it or frustrates you personally about it, your success, your fear, it is all a story. What makes it a story is your willingness to open up and share organically, naturally from the heart with a fellow human being for their benefit in one way or the other. Do that, you've got a story.
I know you talk about there are 3 pillars to a great story. Are those some of the pillars, or are the pillars different?
They are. I'm so glad you brought that up. So the three pillars of really everything that's the foundation of my brand, which I've had since 1998, and everything in the book that I just released back in January, and everything that I do with all of my clients and personally, those three pillars are value, passion, and connection. And every great interaction in some way or another touches on one of those three pillars. So we talked about value a moment ago, right? The idea of how do I create value for whoever I happen to be speaking with in that moment? So my business mantra is, and it's something that tracks on everything that I do, it's don't tell them what you want to tell them. Tell them what they want to hear. The idea being, can you speak for someone else's benefit instead of strictly for your own? Can you shine the spotlight on them and what is most valuable to them instead of shining the spotlight on yourself? Because the more you do that, the more you start to achieve that golden mean of interaction, which is sort of, some people will call it the 57-43 ratio. How do you talk about someone else, the other person, 50%, 57% of the time, and talk about yourself 43% of the time? It's a great balance point for winning communication. So that's the value part of it. The passion part of it we talked about a moment ago as well. What am I really excited about, passionate about? Whether it's personal, so in your case, right, you're a motorcycle guy. There's a lot of passion. Your dad was a firefighter. A lot of passion. I learned this from you as you and I are talking to one another. What do you get really excited about? Travel, communicating with people, getting to know people, whatever drives you passion-wise. If you can share that passion with someone else, you inspire them to want to be a part of that passion. They start to become passionate themselves. So that's a great way to communicate personally and professionally. The third is establishing connection. And the best way that we do that is through story, shared experiences, commonality that we share before we even meet one another. So before you and I had a chance to meet one another, I already knew a good deal about you and you knew a good deal about me simply because I know that you and I share similar backgrounds in business. We have touched on some of the same companies with one another. You're a professional communicator. This is what you do. You're a storyteller yourself. Therefore, we have tons in common before we even get to know each other. And if you can figure out that connection, whether it's with another individual or with an audience who's sitting in front of you, you will always win. You will always create that value and passion for them through the connection that you are willing to establish. So value, passion, connection, three core pillars of great communication.
In your experience, do people say, I don't surround myself with stories? Do they miss that we as human beings are surrounded by stories in just about everywhere we turn?
Oh, always, always, always. I'm always amazed at the number of people that feel, all right, let me take a step back. One of the biggest blockades to great communication is what is scientifically or technically known as FNE, fear of negative evaluation, right? So this is a term that connects to glossophobia, which is just the Latin term for fear of public speaking, right? So glossophobia, glossa meaning tongue, phobia, dread, tongue dread, fear of public speaking. Well, there was a great article and study done in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. It was done back in 2014 that looked at fear of negative evaluation. And the idea is, why do we not want to share ourselves with other people? And it's because we're worried that people are sitting out there judging us, saying, no, you're not worthy. You don't have a good story to tell. You've got nothing to say. And this is a learned fear. Think about when we're 4 years old, 5 years old, for anybody who has children. You cannot wait to get up and perform in front of your family. You want to sing, you want to dance, you want to put on a play. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And the older we get, it's the old Pablo Picasso concept of all children are artists, but it's very hard to maintain that art as we grow older. Fear of negative evaluation makes us the same way as natural storytellers and communicators. We are all endowed with this great ability to tell stories. Just look at any child. They're brilliant storytellers. They're amazing at what they do. And then the older we get, the more we realize that there's a lot of risk in storytelling, because if we get the answer wrong, if we say something, I'm doing air quotes now, stupid, if we make a fool out of ourselves in some way with what we say, then there is a risk that we might lose out in some way. The person we are attracted to won't be interested in us in return because we're too dumb. We don't have any value. The job will not give us the position that we want or the salary that we want. We will get a lower grade in the classroom by speaking out incorrectly. And the bottom line of that is that learned fear of negative evaluation, FNE, stops us from telling the stories that we naturally tell every single day. We just tell them in what we deem to be safe environments as opposed to unsafe environments. And the best thing we can do for a fellow speaker is to put them back in touch with that child that says, your story is uniquely yours. No one else can tell it. And nobody is out there negatively evaluating you. First of all, if you get up on a stage and tell a story, your audience is just thrilled that it's you and not them. The spotlight's on them now. So good, I can just sit here and fly under the radar. Nobody will pay attention. Tomorrow, it's my turn to be on that stage. I don't want them negatively evaluating me. Therefore, I don't negatively evaluate anyone else. Speakers and audience have an amazing interaction. Audiences want speakers to succeed. Everybody who you speak with looks at you and they want you to deliver value. They're just sitting there waiting for you to say something that they will find enjoyable or engaging or valuable. And if you do that, guess what? FNE flies right out the door, and we're now free to tell our stories in the way that we want to.
I'm so glad you said that, because I tell people that all the time. People aren't sitting there saying, man, I hope this guy's horrible. They came for value. They don't want to sit there for an hour and get nothing. It would be like going to a movie, dropping your $15 and saying, I hope this movie is terrible.
That's perfect. Or it's imposter syndrome, right? Why am I the one up here in the spotlight and they're sitting out there? I'll bet they're even smarter than I am. Or if I say something they disagree with, now I am potentially in the firing zone. And that's never the case. A lot of speakers will be concerned, especially as I'm coaching them, to share more of their personal experiences, that shared interaction, that experience-based chemical synchronization of what we call brain coupling. And I encourage people to do that, especially in the opening and closing segments of their interaction, whatever it may be. And people say, yeah, but if I share myself, as opposed to just sharing the metrics, the data, the details, the KPIs, the selling points of my product, if I can hide behind those, I'm safe. But as soon as I put myself out there personally to create that value, passion, connection you're talking about, now I'm at risk. And what I always remind people is, don't confuse negativity and disagreement. They're two completely different things. The opposite of a positive response from your audience is not negativity, it's apathy. It's somebody who couldn't care less what you're saying. They're not listening to what you say, and therefore they're just taking it all in, or they're not even doing that. They're hearing it, but they're not processing or internalizing any of it, and they have nothing to say. I love when people challenge me on what I say. I love when people have an opposing argument, because it means A, they are listening, and B, they care enough about our content to engage and want to contribute their views to the conversation. Now we're opening up a one-way street into a two-way street, where the audience and the speaker get on parallel terms with one another, and everybody has something valuable to say. So I always let speakers know, don't be afraid to invite criticism, to invite an opposing opinion. It's an opportunity for us to learn from one another, and it shows that our audience is paying attention and they care enough about what we're saying to want to contribute to that conversation. That's a gift. That's gold.
Have you heard what noted speakers and readers are saying about Peter's book, The Captivating Public Speaker? An incredible resource full of practical and easy-to-implement advice. Something for everyone, no matter what your current skill level is. Will help you achieve the results you've been striving for. After this episode, please use the link in the show notes to check out The Captivating Public Speaker on Amazon. Now, back to Peter and his guest.
Do you think, Steve, that that's one of the problems too, is that we think when we get up there, we feel that we have to be the expert in order to stand there and talk?
Yeah, I tell a great story in my book. As I was researching the book, I was in Las Vegas, and I was speaking at a conference, And on the way back to the hotel, as I was driving myself back, I heard an interview with Melissa Manchester, right? So we're going back a few years for those of your listeners who are as old as you and I are, and they actually remember who Melissa Manchester was, but phenomenal singer-songwriter with a string of hits in the 1970s, 80s. And she was taking, back at that time, a lyric writing course with Paul Simon, who she said was the most genius guy ever when it came to crafting story. And she said the greatest lesson she ever learned from Paul Simon was all of the stories have already been told. It's the way you tell your story that's the mark of authenticity. And for me, it became a great foundation for the book that I wanted to write because it clicked. That's what I'm trying to say. When you tell your story, whether this is on a personal front or on a business front about your product, your service, solution, whatever it happens to be, don't worry about being the greatest authority of all time on your subject. That doesn't matter. If people want to learn the technical details of whatever it is that you're up there to talk about, they don't need you to do it. They can go research that online themselves. They can go to a website or a microsite. They can read a mission statement. They can read a white paper. They can read an email. The reason they need to be together in the room with you, face to face, listening to your story, is you. You are the mark of authenticity. Nobody will talk about your story like you will. And it's that uniqueness of the way you deliver your information. That is what is most compelling to an audience, be it personal or be it on the corporate angle. It's not about the information. It's not about telling the best jokes. It's not about being the most dynamic speaker in the history of the world. It's about being organic and authentic in how you are willing to share your story, because that particular sharing that you offer, nobody else in the world can do it. And it has nothing to do with expertise. It has to do with you and trusting your own personality to be dynamic and engaging enough to make that interaction valuable.
It's a great point. If it were just about being able to do something that other people have done, there would be no new singers. There would be no new musicians recording. There'd be no new books or movies or anything. Stories are told and told again.
So true. Well, look, if we can take a great classic example, right? If we go back a little time, Joseph Campbell, everything that we know about the hero's journey. So the hero's journey is such a fantastic parable for our own personal journey and also the way that we shepherd others to success. The hero's journey is not brand new. It was simply Campbell taking all of these concepts together and creating some newer methodology of delivering that story. If we go up to current time, Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle, the whole start with why concept. Start with why is not brand new. It was simply Sinek looking at the way people have done things for 150 years and saying, all right, how can we look at it today in a way that's not only current, but also targets a modern mindset? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. This story has been told 100 times. It's just that all of a sudden you've got a new gift, the artist's way. For those of your listeners who know the artist's way, none of these are new ideas. They are existing ideas that are adapted for a modern audience and shared again for the benefit of others in hopes that the more times we hear something said in different words, the more we start to onboard and internalize that value for ourselves to the point where we can take action on that value. And the actionable follow-up is really the core benefit or payoff or goal for every great interaction. How can I change things for you for the better? How can I let you walk away from our shared time, like I'm hoping I'm doing with you right now? How do I get Peter to walk away from our shared time saying, you know what? That was a great use of 20 minutes of my day. That really worked out well. And that's the way that I feel as well for our shared time together. If we can do that, that is a successful interaction. And it really goes to creating value for other people. And if you do that, you don't have to have an original idea. You just have to be willing to share your perspective on that concept.
As John Lennon said, every combination of chords have been played. It's just how you make them sound.
Yeah, baby. 88 keys, 6 strings. How do you want to look at it? There's only so much you can do, but if you put them together in the right order, ooh, that is a good story.
Is there a difference in telling a story to, say, your boss sitting across the table and delivering a presentation or a keynote to a full room, maybe 500,000 people?
Oh, another great question there. So theoretically, on paper, the answer to that question is no. Zero difference. Value, passion, connection. So whether it's one-on-one like you and I are doing right now, can I create value for you? Can I share my passion in hopes of inspiring some passion or learning about your own passion on your end? And can I create a connection with you? That's one-on-one. Then next week, I'm going to be out at a very large conference in Las Vegas for Cisco called Cisco Live, which is their big user group conference. And I will be anchoring their broadcast as I do every year. And we will get around 12.5 million hits over the course of that conference. As I look into that camera and look out to a global Cisco audience, we'll get 12 plus million impressions. And the simple fact is my goal and my target is exactly the same. Whether I'm talking to Peter George or I'm looking into that camera and talking to the 12.5 million impression hits that we're going to get off Cisco Live, the goals are identical. If you can uplift others, up-level their lives through your experience, get them excited about learning something new, trying something new, opening a new door or a new pathway to success in a way that gets them to their own goals and targets. If we can do that together in the interaction, and that's whether that interaction is a 45-minute keynote speech from a stage or a medical equipment sales representative chasing a doctor down the hallway of a hospital and they've got 2 minutes or a minute and a half to create their entire case, or it's a grandchild getting together with their grandparents and they get an opportunity to sit and have an hour-long conversation. The ultimate goals and targets are identical. It's about human-to-human communication. And I'll add one more little story on top of this. The reason that so much communication tends to not reach its targets, I won't say fail, but let's say fail to maximize on its potential, is that all humans, regardless of who that human is, we all hear, process, and incorporate information on 3 levels, top down. Those levels are, number one, on a human level first. When we first hear input, so let's say that we're getting hit by 10,000 pieces of stimuli per day. And with each piece of stimuli, we're making a knee-jerk response, a reaction within a fraction of a second, whether that piece of stimuli is high value, medium value, low value, or no value content. And most everything goes into no value and low value and immediately gets jettisoned, right? If something can crack through our human perception, what makes most sense to us? What do we like or dislike? What hits us on a moral level in a way that says, yes, we want to be a part of this. We agree with this. We like what we're hearing. That's the human level, which we hit first. If it gets past that level, now we process that piece of stimuli or information as a consumer. Would I want to buy that? And by buy, it can mean with our wallets. We can open up our wallets and we can give money or a credit card. It can mean, well, do I want to invest my time or my energy in this? Do I think it's valuable and worthy enough as a consumer for me to create investment in that bit of information, that detail? And then if it gets through that second level, we go to the third level, which is now we process as employees. We process on behalf of our corporation or our job title. Do we think it is a good business decision based on what we get a paycheck for? That is the correct methodology of strong communication, winning communication. Human first, consumer second, employee third. And guess what most people do? They take that and they flip it upside down and they start by marketing to the employee and to the company and to the brand. Second comes the consumer and the human is buried last. And it's exactly the opposite of the way good, winning, powerful communication actually works. So if we can always start with human to human in our communications, everybody wins.
You believe that every interaction should conclude with a strong call to action.
Yes.
Why is this? And what should it look and sound like?
All right. So 2 sides to that. There are 3 stages to a great call to action. And I want to come back to that in a moment, but let's talk about why we need it to begin with. I believe a call to action should happen at the end of every engagement, including our personal engagements with our spouse, with our kids, with our friends. The idea is, what is the takeaway and where do we go from here? So with a friend, my call to action might be, I've loved sharing this time together. It's so great. When can we get together next? Setting up the next point of contact. Something I always love to tell people is you never say goodbye until you've set up the next hello. With our spouse, same deal. So let's say that I walk in the door and my spouse says, "How was your day?" And we have that conversation. And by the time my spouse is ready to go off to do whatever she's going to do, or I'm going to do what I'm going to do, what is the next point of action? What are we doing for dinner tonight? Where do you want to go? Later on, do you want to pick up that show that we left off before? We always go to a next step or a next stage without simply assuming that everyone knows what comes next. When we talk about it from a business strategy standpoint, the best part of an interaction is letting somebody know you just invested your time really wisely. And here is where you can take it from this point moving forward to create even more benefit and payoff for you. So the idea of a great talk, if we're talking on a corporate level, whether that's keynote or a session, or you're delivering a workshop, or you're giving a public talk to your team, what you want to do is you want to send them out the door with a combination of optimism and a head of steam that we can accomplish something great together as a next step. So let me open the door to where we can take it from here, because if I can create action based on our engagement, if I can make you want to feel proactive, ooh, I'm excited about that. I don't want to forget what I just heard. I want to go out and do something with it. I want to apply it. If I can do that for my audience, man, I just make them victorious. They feel like they can fly because they've got a new goal and they know how to achieve that goal. So then we come to the 3 prime steps of a great call to action. Step number 1, make it simple and fast. So a lot of speakers will walk off the stage and they'll say, okay, so now I'd like you, here's the QR code or here's the URL, go download my product and learn how to use it. Never going to happen. People don't have that much free time in their day. So let's put together a site visit and we'll come out and we'll spend a day together. No, you won't spend a day together. Most of these people can't go through their job. I don't have 10 minutes free. You want me to give you a whole day? The answer is no. It's a failed call to action. But if your call to action will take them 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a first tiny step down the new path to success that you have just opened up for them with the interaction and engagement. If you can create that and make it so quick, they can't say no to it. Better yet, get them to do it right there in the room, which is step 2. Make your call to action immediate. Rather than saying next week or a month from now, I want you, no, right now. You're excited in this moment. We just had a great engagement with one another. And while you're still feeling that way, what can I get you to do immediately that empowers you right away and gets you moving forward on what it is that I have offered or shown to you? That's step 2. And step 3 is you want to light the path so they can't get lost. So if there is anything even remotely confusing about your call to action or that gives them too many options, they won't choose any of those options and they won't do anything. Light up the path. So A, it's super quick and easy. B, you can do it immediately. In fact, even while you're sitting right here, or the second you stand up and walk out the door. And C, let me drop it right into your lap so there's no confusion. Let me take the work off of your shoulders and show you how easy it is to get done so that you can't get lost. Do those 3 things and your audience will always move forward in a proactive stance, and therefore they win, and by default, you win.
And speaking of call to actions, Steve, where can my listeners connect with you?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I'm fairly easy to find. The name of my company is Steve Multer Corporate Storytelling. Therefore, you can find me at either Steve Multer or Corporate Storytelling. We made sure that happened. So there are 2 websites out there, stevemulter.com and corporatestorytelling.com. Both of them will lead directly to me into what it is that I do. So if you'd like to know any more, or if you'd like to open up a conversation or like to get to know me, I would love to get to know you as well. That's a great way to do it. And the second thing, for all of your listeners here on your podcast, if you're interested, I've created a great free e-guide. It's a downloadable PDF called 5 Paths to Passionate Storytelling. And it's something that's a quick, easy read that will get literally anybody moving forward in 5 different ways to instantly up-level the way you tell stories from a stage or on camera or in a personal one-to-one environment. The way you're going to get that, go to corporatestorytelling.com/guide and then enter the code SOLDTOLD23. The title of the book is Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told. So I made the code SOLDTOLD23. But put that in, go download that 5 Paths to Passionate Storytelling e-guide, and everybody can do that. That is a great first step that will take you seconds, and then you can read it whenever you would like.
Well, I hope they do, and I know I'm going to.
Great.
Steve, thanks so much for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Peter, it's been an honor. It's been lots of fun, great questions, great conversation, great value. And again, I hope there have been some really good takeaways for your audience. This has been fun.
That's a wrap of another episode of Public Speaking with Peter George. Be sure to tune in again for a conversation with another public speaking expert. And remember to use the link in the show notes to go to Amazon and check out Peter's acclaimed book, The Captivating Public Speaker.